You are now listening to the fastest show on Iron Sports Radio. My name is Darryl and Chris, welcoming you to the lap of the extra mile for today, March 16th, 2023. It's a bad day to be a Hendrick Motorsports fan, technically. It's a great day to be a Ferrari fan. Stay with me on that one. And for all the other motorsports, well, it's going to be a great weekend anyway. And to help me talk about all of that, my co-host Christopher Lehman. Chris?
It's a bad day for Hendrick fans, Darryl, and I happen to be one. So, what a way to walk into the weekend. First time my driver has ever led the regular season's points championship, and it was a awesome 72 hours, Darryl.
Yeah,
just fantastic.
It was a great 3 days leading the points until the penalties came. The reckoning that we're going to talk about in a minute. And Larry is a little bit salty. He's there in the chat. He said Byron could win the other races in the Western Swing, but he couldn't win Cali. He was close to winning Cali. We've never had a driver, I think, sweep the Western Swing yet. Since they started making it a thing. But yeah, Larry, we do wish that he could have won that race.
He finished. Cool. He finished 25th. He wasn't even close.
Yeah, now that I think about it.
He started 32nd.
Mm-hmm.
Finished 25th. That's not a good... Oof.
Yeah, that's not a good day at all. I think he was the one Hendrick car that struggled. Because we didn't... You know what happened to him? We didn't qualify because of the rain.
Oh, and he got caught up
in one of the wrecks at Daytona, so he was screwed.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that penalty in a minute. Actually, we're going to talk about that penalty right
also,
now.
Hey, while Larry's right here, Larry, I've been trying to get a hold of you for half the day. I need a new nearest the win because you picked Harvick last week. So please send that at your earliest convenience.
Yep. Hashtag nearest the win on Twitter if you want to play as well if you're listening. Usually we start with the...
He can just write it right in the chat, though.
Yeah, and if he writes in the chat, he can just... Well, I'm talking about for the actual people that are listening that might not be in our chat. But if you're in the chat, put it in. We will put it on our spreadsheet because I've got it open right here. If not, send it through Twitter, and we'll also put it up. Usually we start with the race review, but we got to get into the news of the week first, which is Hendrick Motorsports just got the boom laid on them for these air duct issues. If you didn't know, I cannot pronounce the word louvers, so they're basically the air ducts on the hood. All four of them were taken off. All the air ducts were taken off of all four Hendrick cars, plus the Kaulig 31 of Haley, which is weird that it was the 31 and not the 16 as well. I don't know how that happened, but NASCAR determined that they were illegally modified. All the teams involved got 100 points penalties, and this is how bad it is. Hendrick Motorsports had 3 cars in the top 5 in points. Go look at NASCAR.com and the points right now. The highest Hendrick car is Chase Elliott in 29th, who isn't going to be racing the next 6 weeks due to that broken tibia.
And hasn't raced in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. And who it really hurt? Poor Justin Haley. Had 60 points on Sunday. He's got negative 40. So congratulations if you're listening to this show right now. You too have more NASCAR Cup Series points than Justin Haley. Congratulations.
Can we talk about the real depressing thing, Darryl? Is if you go to NASCAR.com and look at the NASCAR Cup Series standings, you have 37 drivers on there. You have Kevin Harvick through Jimmy Johnson for 1 through 36. And then in 43rd place, you have Justin Haley. He has less points than people who aren't even technically scored in the Cup Series. Like, he's 43rd place out of 37 drivers.
Who is missing off this list? Wait a minute. Hold on. Who hasn't been scored that's raced?
Well,
other than
some
Barry.
of the Daytona entries.
Yeah, but they didn't make the race. They didn't score.
They do
right. They didn't score.
And like Travis Pastrana's not on here.
Yes, he is. He's 33rd.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. BJ McLeod, who is a regular season runner, is tied with BJ McLeod on points, and Ty Dillon has less points than Travis Pastrana.
Yeah, Ty Dillon's he's a fraud.
I can't say he's a fraud because there weren't that high expectations on him anyway. Him and his brother, to be honest. I mean, they're just guys. As a Funny Danny would say here on 106.7 The Fan, he's just a guy. Also known as a Jag. So I'm not really surprised, but he's having a bad year in that 77.
Yeah.
I'm really sitting here trying to figure out who are the drivers behind him.
Well, they're just people that ran the Daytona 500, but they don't score. Like one of them got a top 10, but I don't remember his name.
So Connor Daly is not on here.
Yep, Connor Daly.
That's one. I gotta bring up the Daytona 500 standings. This is gonna bug me, and I know we're getting off topic, but this is gonna bug me until we figure this out. I have to bring up the Daytona results. So Kyle won. No, Kyle did not win the Daytona 500. Ricky Stenhouse, of all people, won that race. Okay, so now I've got it up. So who is on here that... So no, Connor Daly was one, but he finished nowhere. Riley Herbst. Who doesn't get points.
Zane Smith.
All right, that's 3. So he's Cody Ware. Is he getting cup points? I need to go to the other list. I need the other list up.
Cody Ware. Yes, Cody Ware is getting cup points.
Okay, so he's behind Riley Herbst, Zane Smith, Connor Daly. So that's 36, 37, 38. I don't have the qualifying list, so I can't remember who didn't qualify.
JJ
Haley.
Yeah.
That's 39. Chandler Smith,
yeah.
He's not getting cup points. So he's behind all those guys. Austin Hill's the other.
Yeah.
That's 41. So he's behind all those guys that haven't run. And then you get to Justin Haley. That's depressing.
Yeah.
But the problem is, and both teams obviously have appealed, and Chris and I were talking about this on the phone this week. It sounds like it's a single source part issue because whoever makes the louvers, Hendrick and Kaulig are saying it came from them bad. And it's not like they can modify it to be right because then they'd still be in trouble. So they just put it on the car and hope they could get through, and they didn't.
So what I've been told, or well, not necessarily what I've been told, that's the wrong way to word it, but what I've read is that NASCAR, so Chevrolet as a whole, submitted to NASCAR, this is our design, this is what we want. Mm-hmm. NASCAR said, yep, that sounds good. They sent it to the manufacturer, or the supplier in this case, and said, this is what they want. And the supplier said, yep, great, we'll do it. Fast forward, now the Chevy teams are saying these aren't right. These are not being manufactured to the specifications that everybody signed off on manufacturing. Mm-hmm. So NASCAR has actually authorized modifications to the louvers. So, and I don't know if this extends to just the Chevy teams or if it goes beyond that, but Chevrolet is allowed to modify the louvers to fit the car. Again, because the production is not meeting the quality standard, whatever word you want to use. It's not what they agreed upon doing, and they can't make it work. But what NASCAR is theoretically saying is that Hendrick modified something with that part that they did not authorize. However, it's been noted that they're getting bad batches and they have to modify them to fit. And Hendrick is basically saying, and we would know if they were cheating because they've already had 2 cars finish first and second. William Byron's. So their cars have been going through R&D. So it's not like they're just getting caught now. They would have caught it before. So this has not been happening. It happened. But
here's the thing: they're under extra scrutiny because Hendrick Motorsports has been kicking everybody's behind to start this season, and that's the issue. Especially for Hendrick, because of their history, when they start dominating, the NASCAR rule adjusters start coming around and saying, hey, what are y'all doing? And what they probably think is that they modified those louvers a little bit more than they were supposed to. Now, it didn't matter because they put the right louvers on at Phoenix and absolutely waxed the field again. So it's not that, unfortunately.
And you can't tell me that those 4 Hendrick cars, regardless of finishing position, were not all thoroughly checked after that race.
Oh, they tore them down to the bolts and built it back up. It was like the T-Rex car back at the All-Star race for Jeff Gordon back in the 90s, where they went to the team and said, don't y'all bring that car back for the Coke 600, and made a bunch of rules in the weeks beforehand to stop that car from coming back. Look up the T-Rex car if you're new to NASCAR. Ray Evernham was the GOAT, and I wish he stayed a crew chief and didn't make his own team, because he was the GOAT for doing stuff with the car they had no business doing that made it go really, really fast.
Yeah. And, so it sounds like, maybe, well, I guess to backtrack a little bit. So something that I've seen posted, and it definitely came from somebody, not like Rob675531 on Twitter, but it came from somebody real, or maybe I got Adam Slurnd, who knows, right? Mm-hmm. But basically 5 teams submitted to this like pre-weekend inspection. I don't even know what they call it.
Yes,
but 5 teams agreed to it and said, yep, sure, whatever, do what you want to do. Those 5 teams, the 24 car, the 48 car, the 9 car, the 5 car, and the whatever number Justin Haley is.
31.
So 31. So NASCAR went to 5 teams and said, hey, we want to check your car. And all 5 teams were penalized for it. They had a 100% success rate.
Wait, what was the 4th car?
The 4 Hendrick cars. The 48,
right,
the 9.
400 cars in Haley. So, yeah. All 5 of those cars just happen to be cheating?
They had a 100% success rate on finding cheaters during that. Only 5 cars were approached about doing it, and they caught all 5. Like, come on. Really? Allgaier's car was fine. They didn't find anything wrong with it because they went back and checked.
Yep.
So something weird happened. And I think we actually have to wait to get more information before anybody really makes their decision on anybody who's cheating, because this might be coming back the other way.
It might. NASCAR has lost the last couple of appeals they've done when they've gone in front of the appeal board. Teams have been successful in getting their penalties undone or at least lessened, depending on how the board is feeling that day. But my real concern, because this once again started criticism of the next-gen car, and I'm going to say this, and I'm also going to turn this light on because I look really dark. I'm going to walk out of frame here.
While you're doing that, Darryl, so just to summarize the penalty for anybody who hasn't seen it, you have 4 drive. So Chase Elliott does not get fined driver's points. It
wasn't his car.
Well, he's not in the car. Yes. So his car, every car involved was deducted 100 owner's points and 10 playoff points. And the Josh Berry is ineligible for scoring, so he does not get penalized the 100 driver's points that Alex Bowman, William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Justin Haley get penalized. Then you have Blake Harris, who is the crew chief of the 48 car, Alan Gustafson, who's the crew chief of the 9 car, Rudy Fugel, who is the crew chief of the 24, and Cliff Daniels, the crew chief of the 5. And I don't know Justin Haley's crew chief, but they all got a $100,000 fine and a 4-race suspension. So in one weekend, NASCAR put $500,000 in their pocket, literally.
Yep. And that money might be going away depending on how things go.
Yep. So HMS, Hendrick Motorsports, they are appealing the penalty, but they are not. And we'll actually read the statement from Hendrick, but they've made, and this is a quote from them, the organization has made the strategic decision to not ask for a deferral of the crew chief suspension. So basically, they're sitting their crew chiefs now. That way, if they do lose the appeal, they're not going into the summer.
Well, hold on. The reason they're not doing that out of the goodness of their hearts, these are the 4 crew chiefs they're bringing out as the backups. Greg Ives, Kevin Mindering, Tom Gray, and Brian Camp. They've got an all-star setup of backup of race engineers and former crew chiefs. Hendrick is doing this because they've got a deep pool, including Greg Ives, who's won races with Alex Bowman before. Kaulig does not have that luxury. That's why they're doing their deferral.
Yeah, Kevin Mendering was with William Byron, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he's going to be with Kyle Larson this week.
Yeah.
Or for this.
Yeah, no, they definitely. I mean, they're definitely doing it so that way, if they do lose the appeal, they're not, going into the summer, because this will take a couple weeks to get through. They just doing it now, get it over with, and they can really put the screws to NASCAR. If they win the appeal, they can really put the screws to them and say, you owe us. Which that obviously is not going to work. But
with Hendrick, or with Chevy in general, Chevy has swept the first 4 races of the season. It's been Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kyle Busch, and the 2 Hendrick cars. They are trying to rein them in because all 3 teams changed their noses, and Hendrick went from 3rd to their Red Bull racing it now. So in Formula One, Chevrolet is a manufacturer right now.
Yeah. Chevrolet has led 69% of the laps this season.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had to pull Austin Cindric there. If you heard what he did during the ARCA broadcast. By the way, big ups to Frankie Muniz, first career top 10, now second in points in ARCA in his first year. But and Chevy's got 87% of the stage wins, which is 7 of 8 for anybody counting at home. And they've swept the wins. I mean, we've actually ran exactly 1,000 laps because the Daytona 500 went over, and I believe Phoenix did go over as well.
I think Phoenix went over like one lap or 2 laps or something.
Vegas had overtime and Phoenix had overtime. We've had 3 out of the 4 go to overtime. Yeah.
So the nice thing is we've ran exactly 1,000 laps, so it makes it real easy to look at a number and say that's the percent, right? So HMS has led 54% of the laps this season.
Jeez.
Which, I mean, most of those are actually William Byron.
And that's why they're under the scrutiny right now.
Yeah. Yeah. William Byron has led 240. So he's led 24% of the laps by himself.
And if you notice, we're not really getting into the race because, to be honest, not a lot happened other than Kevin Harvick was in position to win, and then the 21 car spun. Took 4 tires at the end of that race. Could not get back through the field, and William Byron went back-to-back. But can we stop acting like Phoenix is a good racetrack? Because every time you come here and have a bad race and they blame the car and the package, y'all, I've been watching this track, since it was flat in the Gen 4 and COT days. Phoenix is just not a good racetrack. It's too flat. It doesn't have multiple grooves, so everybody's just in a line. And yeah, they were sliding out the groove, but nobody can make any passes. What has been a problem at this track, no matter how much horsepower we've had, be it 550, be it 1,000, be whatever they were running in the 90s, this just isn't a good track. And we just got to face that. And it really sucks that we went from Homestead being the championship finale to Phoenix. We really got to get the finale off Phoenix. I don't care how much money they spent for that infield redo. It's not a good track. It just isn't.
I agree.
But we are going to Atlanta this week. Now, this is a place where, and I'll ask you, Chris, what do you feel about the Atlanta repave?
If I'm being honest, I want to give it another year before I really make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, we went last year. We had the next gen car that was new, and it's the 4th race of the year. So, I mean, that first race, nobody knew what the heck was going on anyway. And then by the time you get there later in the year, I mean, sure, you got it figured out to a degree. But we've only had 2 races on this reconfiguration. I need to see at least 4 or 5 before I really can say, here's the pattern.
Yeah. It's a plate track, and we just need to call it a plate track. I don't know why they keep calling it super speedway style racing. It's a super speedway now. That's what they built it into. A lot of people don't like that Atlanta went that way, but I'll say it like this. If they left it 1.5 miles with the repave, y'all would complain anyway, because it would be majority one groove, or they put the resin down, y'all would complain about that, because we are in the criticism era of sports fandom, especially when it comes to NASCAR, where everything they do to make the racing better is wrong, and everything would be better if they just did 1,000 horsepower and went back to cars from the 80s that they don't make anymore. So I like it. Go ahead.
You just basically given everybody on Twitter a wet dream.
Basically.
Because that's what they dream of, literally.
But it's not coming back, y'all. No. They don't make Chevy Luminas anymore. Mercury doesn't exist. We're not getting 1,000 horsepower engines that break every 40 laps again. You're just going to have to deal with it. But anyway.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but we didn't actually even talk about the other suspension that came from Phoenix.
You mean the suspension?
Not suspension. I apologize. The other penalty or fine or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, we've added to our should have been suspended list. Denny Hamlin went on his podcast, Actions Detrimental, ironic, because that's what he got the penalty for, admitted to, on the final lap, putting Ross Chastain into the wall. Just flat out admitted it. And now he got a 20. Let me actually scroll forward so I can read this. Go ahead.
$50,000 fine, 25 driver's points.
Yeah.
And really consider that probably 50 driver's points, since he dropped like 25 places in the race. So he lost basically 50 points that weekend.
Yep. And my whole problem with this, and I almost got into an argument with somebody on Twitter with it before I shut it down, because it's not
Rob. Was it Rob 365554129?
Yeah. Folks, NASCAR said they wanted to get this out the sport, and they said the penalties were going to get tougher when it comes to retaliation. I will admit, Bubba was heavy-handed with what he did. He shouldn't have got suspended, but if y'all want to suspend somebody for retaliation, make it the standard for retaliation, period. this case-by-case stuff, and I'm going down the same gosh darn rant I did when Bubba got suspended. But
and Williams didn't get suspended.
Yeah.
Actually, we don't even... Was Williams before Bubba's, or was it after?
After. No, it was before.
I was going to say, I thought it was before.
It was William, then Bubba.
Because we cited William and said William admitted to wrecking somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did he actually admit to it, or
he admitted to wrecking Hamlin? He admitted to wrecking Hamlin under caution.
That's right.
Which was suspension worthy, by the way. Once you start getting into this case-by-case crap that they like to do, you get into the inconsistency issue, especially with this, that has driven me up the wall when it comes to driver punishment for retaliation. If you want retaliation out the sport, tell everybody, we don't care how minor it is, we don't care how major it is. If you retaliate against somebody and we know it's retaliation, you're missing a week.
And it doubles every time. Bubba got 1, the next guy should get 2. Maybe not doubles, but then 3, then 4, then 5, and don't stop till they stop. So it'll reset if we go 36 races without 1 incident.
Yep.
It'll reset back to 1.
So Hamlin goes on to the should have been suspended list, and that's my driver's boss, but I'm going to admit it, he shouldn't be racing this week.
Nope. Especially,
I get it, right? Like Bubba came right out and said, I wrecked him. I did, right?
We watched it on television, yeah, so.
When these guys, retaliation, you're never going to get rid of it truly because these guys know how to make it look like an accident.
Mm-hmm.
But when they just flat out say, I wrecked him, I did it on purpose, what more could you want? NASCAR should have said, yep, absolutely. Thank you, Denny. Here's a penalty. Here's a fine. And, we'll see you at COTA. Yeah, or actually, probably we'll see you at Richmond. Maybe it should have been 2 weeks.
Yeah,
but instead it's here's a little fine. Here's a 25-point drivers.
Which that doesn't matter. He'll get that back this week.
Yeah.
He's a good plate racer.
Yeah, it was the equivalent of a slap on the wrist, if you could even call it that.
Yeah. My whole thing with this is going to be, if you want the wrecking out of the sport, then take the wrecking out of the sport. Start throwing bigger penalties at these guys. But we didn't talk about this when we went to Vegas, but what pissed me off, they used a clip of Bubba putting Larson in the wall in the Fox Sports hype package before we went green. Now, if it was bad enough for him to get freaking suspended, how can you put it in your hype package? That is the type of stuff I'm talking about with NASCAR. If it's that bad that a driver has to miss a race, you can't use it to promote your sport.
Darryl, we had to watch Ryan Newman's crash for like 3 years.
Oh my God, don't remind me. We just stopped seeing Ryan Newman almost die this year.
Yeah, I was relieved to see one Daytona 500 where we didn't reference it.
Yeah.
But Brendan Gaughan, his flip at Talladega, I think it was, we're still seeing that. That's not something to celebrate. Cars shouldn't be flipping over. That's what they're designed not to do at this point. But here we go. You see a commercial for Talladega. There it is.
Y'all know how I feel about it. I'm not going to keep going down this road because I can feel myself getting irritated. Y'all know how I feel. So these are the drivers who should have been suspended, who have not been suspended, but should have been since Bubba Wallace got suspended at last fall. Ty Gibbs absolutely annihilating Brandon Jones at Martinsville to win that race.
That was malicious,
which was not
and
2
obvious.
weeks after. Yeah, that was absolutely intentional what happened there. And he goes to win the championship the next week. Kyle Busch breaking international gun laws. That's he self-reported, but still, that's actions detrimental.
Now, are we doing actions detrimental, or are we just doing drivers who maliciously retaliated on track?
Well, if we're doing that, then we got to take Kyle Busch off the list.
Well, that's what I was saying. We're kind of... You wanted him added, and I'm cool with it, right? Yeah. But
I think for this, we're going to take Kyle off the list.
Because I think we're kind of tracking the intentional wrecking and then admitting it, though Ty Gibbs admitted it as he was thanking God for getting him to the Final Four. And basically, if NASCAR had reported him or had penalized him, they would have been sacrilegious and lost half their viewership because
Probably.
Ty Gibbs knew what he was doing when he got out of that car.
Oh, he absolutely knew what he was doing then. And I like Ty, but that was... I lost a lot of respect for him after that. It definitely was. I mean, you cannot... And then he tried to say, well, I didn't mean to hit him that hard, dude. Dude, don't.
Yeah. Just... You get out of your car and you glance over it.
Yeah.
You don't even mention it.
Yeah. And obviously, Denny Hamlin admitted to wrecking Ross Chastain, so he's now the second person on the should have been suspended list.
And we're only putting people that are blatantly either so obvious you can't deny it or straight out just publicly admitted it on their podcast.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you that no one will be, once they got that cool down out of the car, which I don't know what on earth Denny was thinking. Because all he had to do was not say anything.
That's what I don't understand. Just don't say it.
In 2023, make this your motto. Shut your mouth.
Yeah. Don't snitch on yourself. It should be the motto for 2023.
Yeah, because that's what Denny Hamlin did.
Atlanta, and we talked a little bit about Atlanta before he got on this tangent. This race is going to be a super speedway style event. So your drivers that are good at super speedways, you should definitely be thinking about picking them for nearest to win. And those are drivers that you're going to be watching. Bubba Wallace historically has either been second at these races or ended up in the crash on the last lap. And except for when he won Talladega because of the rain. But, well, not really because of the rain. He worked himself into position and the rain happened to fall. So Bubba's always a good driver to put up there. We know Ricky Stenhouse Jr. late in these races can show up. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. also good at these. Well, Denny's good at these. Martin, not so much.
Yeah. And actually, Darryl, this is kind of a good place to plug our Twitter account. And because this year, I put a lot of time into building this spreadsheet. And so what we're doing every, hopefully Monday, this week I just got a little sidetracked. We're actually putting together kind of a sheet. So the Monday morning tweet is basically a screenshotted PDF, and it lists the points going into the weekend. So in this case, before Phoenix, Darryl had 55 points, and then so on down the list. Then it shows our picks and the points that we scored. So, for instance, Darryl picked Kevin Harvick. He got 5 points. And it's going to list that for every series. So this week, on Monday of this next week, it's going to be NASCAR and Formula One, and you get the drift. And then, so Monday morning, I'll post the updated thing with the new standings. And then below that, submitting picks for the next weekend, we're actually listing where the track is and the previous 5 winners at that track. So if you're looking for some nearest to win help, definitely we're putting in the effort to make sure that there's a resource available so you can kind of see who would be a good option. And the reason I bring this up, Darryl, is we're talking about Hendrick's dominance this year, leading 69% of the laps. Look at who won Atlanta last year under the new configuration: William Byron and Chase Elliott. Yep. So Hendrick swept Atlanta last year.
And then, obviously it's not even applicable to talk about before the reconfiguration because it's not
a completely different thing now.
And this week we'll also talk about Jeddah, which obviously that track didn't even exist in 2020. So we've got 2 winners for Formula One this week, but definitely check out our Twitter account because we are posting that. I did it late this week, so it was Wednesday, but I'm trying to get them out like Monday around lunchtime, because that's kind of when I do the updating on it. And so when you're doing your nearest to win, go to our Twitter and just respond right to that tweet and say, hey, you know what? Give me so-and-so, and I'll put it on the list for this coming week. So we'll obviously get in the nearest to win at the end, but just kind of while we were talking about, Darryl, who's good plate track racers, I just kind of saw an opportunity to plug our Twitter account. So yeah, I'll let you take back over.
So Larry's in the chat says, yeah, but they want to tear down California when they should be tearing down Phoenix. Truth.
They also should be tearing down Texas too.
Oh Lord, don't get me started.
But Larry Phoenix is
is
terrible.
It is. It really is.
And did Larry send a new pick for Kevin Harvick?
He's picking Bubba like I am for this week. Larry also said, watch NASCAR use Chastain's wall ride in a promo. I'm fine with that.
They already do. They already do.
They do, and it was legal when he did it.
Yep.
It's not legal anymore, but it was legal when he did it. I'm fine with that. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, if you're a Ferrari fan, you do have something to celebrate this week.
Wrong continent.
And not on the right continent, but you have something to celebrate. We'll talk about it on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Lentarius Live.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back here on iSports Radio, your feed for all that is sports. Darryl and Chris here with you on the Extra Mile. We are getting ready to get into Formula One, but before we do that, one little bit of news we have to get to, which is the beautiful Kevin Harvick tribute scheme that is going to be run at the All-Star race. That was announced earlier on NASCAR Race Hub today. Going to run the number 29 Busch-sponsored machine, painted, or a Busch Light scheme, painted in the colors that Kevin Harvick took his first win in, the white and red Goodwrench scheme. And another great addition to it, they're going to run the number 29 in the All-Star race.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I saw that around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, Kevin Harvick had posted on Twitter, check out Race Hub at 6. And I was like, oh, man, we're going to have something to, really, like, Kevin Harvick, your retirement's already announced. Like, what could you be announcing at 6 o'clock on Race Hub? So, awesome scheme. I'm glad to see that they were able to make everything work to get him in that 29 car for the race. And I'll be interested to see what he does for throwback weekend too, at Darlington, obviously, if he's going to throw it back to himself, or maybe he's going to throw it back to Dale Earnhardt. I'm going to be really curious to see what he chooses to do with this last throwback, and mostly because he's kind of already throwing back to himself, which only Hall of Famers can get away with a throwback car of their own.
Yes.
And Jimmy, who's obviously first ballot Hall of Famer, for his final throwback weekend, he threw it back to Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. So it'll be interesting to see what Kevin Harvick, who obviously not a 7-time champion, but a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think that's a question I don't think that's anything anybody's disputing, but awesome job on this paint scheme, and I can't wait to see what he does at Darlington.
He's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I cannot wait to see how that goes when he runs that car at the All-Star race, which is unfortunately going to be at No Limits, Texas, but whatever. But let's talk about some good news. If you're a Ferrari fan, you do have something to celebrate. No, it's not Charles Leclerc taking a 10-spot grid penalty, the quickest one in Formula One history. But in the World Endurance Championship, AF Course is going to lead the field to the green at tomorrow's 1,000 miles of Sebring. Qualifying wrapped up a couple hours ago, and the first Hypercar pole of the year goes to Ferrari, with Toyota in second and third. And in the GT-AM category, the Iron Dames, that's the all-women team for Iron Lynx, is going to lead GTE Amateur to the pole in that event. Unfortunately, I did not get the P2 pole, so I apologize for that. But I'm glad for Ferrari fans. You have something to celebrate. But, people complain about that Iron Dames car, that they're only together because they're all women. But they keep showing they're really, really fast. Don't know what to tell you about that. But they seem to know what they're doing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different things I could say, Darryl, about knowing what they're doing. So it's good for Ferrari fans. I'm sure if Michael could be with us here today, he would be singing their praises to a degree. Obviously, there's not very much to be celebrated in other open wheel series, but kudos, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of how things kick off.
I don't know if you'll get a chance to watch it at work, since it will be starting at like 11 a.m. on Friday. I am off today and tomorrow, so it is nice that I'll actually be able to sit here and watch it.
You lucky.
Yep.
I will not get to watch any. I will be busy at work.
Yes. So, and another bit of news where we go back to Formula One. This was just posted by Nate Ryan earlier today. The naming rights for Auto Club Speedway ran out on March 15th, 2023. So that is why they changed their logo yesterday to the NASCAR logo. The issue that I have is there is still not a date on when construction of the Auto Club short track is supposed to start, which tells me that track might not be coming. And they just need to announce, look, we're tearing the place down, and just rip the Band-Aid off. Because right now it's getting irritating. But back to irritating, Ferrari, Formula One team. So Charles Leclerc started the season with 2 electronic control units, which you're only allowed 2 for the entire season. He burned up 1 before the start of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Chris, can you tell the folks when the other one went bad?
Well, we're going into race 2, Darryl, and he's already gone through 2.
Yeah. We're on the second race of the season.
So I'm not great at math, but I think last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yep. 3 weeks, or 3 control units, and we're only on race 2. How, as if you're a Ferrari fan, do you put up with this?
That's probably why we don't have Michael tonight. Yeah, every year we always have overreactions, right?
Yes.
Like, and we had George Russell after Bahrain saying Max is going to win every race this season, or maybe it was just Red Bull, but they're going to win every race this season. Let's just focus on 2024. Come on, George. It's race 1. Like, I get it. You guys were far off the mark. And, you know, it's only a matter of time before we get the same attitude out of Ferrari if they're going to keep taking grid penalties. What is this?
I mean, you've got one. Anytime they're going to have to change control electronics for the rest of the year, it's going to be a penalty. Yeah, I just showed Chris the average ticket prices for Formula One. We'll get to that in a moment.
So looking at this and notwithstanding, if you could pick one race to go to off of this calendar, let's
finish with the control electronics drama, and then we'll come back to this. Because if you're sitting here, Ferrari, you had the fastest car last year. You didn't bring home the championship. You come back this year, somehow you're behind Red Bull, and now Charles' car is not reliable. How are y'all supposed to win world championships again doing this? I don't really understand what's going on. At this point, it's a whole team philosophy thing. Because how are you sitting here? This only happens to Ferrari. This type of stupid stuff, the last few years, only happens to Ferrari.
Well, Darryl, we've been tracking since Bahrain. There's been an exodus of employees from Ferrari.
Yes.
And we don't know if they're leaving on their own accord or if Vassar's in there just pointing at people and saying, doing his best, Donald Trump, you're fired.
I think Vassar is going through and just yanking people's cards and say, you don't have a job here anymore. Go home.
He's just calling people on Skype and saying, "Hey, bring me your resignation letter by 3."
Yeah.
You got 2 weeks. You're going on gardening leave for the year. Hey, same thing.
I don't know how if you're Vassar, you keep all those folks, because you're looking at the type of car they put together. Because he basically got brought in with Binotto's folks still there. So if you're Vassar and this is the best they can do, I'm cleaning house too. He kicked the chassis guy out. I think the aerodynamicist also left. He's seen enough in 1 week to say this ain't working. That's shocking.
And and Darryl, we also have to say though that he knew the job he was taking.
Absolutely.
So we can't really sympathize with him with bad results because they were going to happen no matter who was here. Bonotto led the train, and we're not really going to see what Vassar's Ferrari looks like probably until next year, because the developments for this car started before he even started working there.
Yes.
We're going to see probably at least 3 to 4 upgrades before something that he greenlit actually comes through onto the car. I don't think we'll see an upgrade that he authorized probably until the back half of the season.
Yeah, we won't see his real fingerprints on that car till the second half of the season, but he's dealing with a lot that was a lot of bad in that team that he's got to clean up now. And that's what he's got to do.
If I was him, and this is my friendly advice because I know he's not listening, fire your whole strategy department like today, because we haven't seen any publicly announced changes to that department, and that department cost them a world championship.
Absolutely.
Their strategy team definitely is the reason that they did not win the world championship last year. It wasn't Red Bull being extraordinarily fast. It was them being extraordinarily consistent when when Ferrari wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where his changes should have started, and then everything else would follow.
Yes. Give me 1 second. Hold on. I'm trying to find my mute button. Sorry, Mom's going to sleep. All right, so we're back. So let's get into this ticket price list I just sent. So someone posted, or I can just read it on the page. F1 Destinations posted the average 3-day F1 ticket price in 2023. Hungary was the lowest average at 184. You get 2 guesses on what the highest one is, and the first guess doesn't count. Oh, hold on, Chris. You are, did I mute you?
Yeah, you can hear me now.
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay. I didn't hear what you said. I was actually reading something you tweeted a couple minutes ago.
I said the average 3-day F1 ticket prices came out.
Yep,
Hungary was the cheapest. You get 2 guesses on what the most expensive one is, and the first one don't count.
Well, I don't think I'm looking at the list, so obviously I know, but I would have known without seeing this list.
Yeah, it's Las Vegas, by the way.
Yeah, by a whopping $500 over the second most expensive,
which is the new race in Miami.
Over $500 actually.
Yeah,
553.
Yep, Monaco.
54.
Monaco is actually 4th from the bottom.
How is Mexico more expensive than Monaco? Honestly, probably
that is a great question.
Probably taxes.
Probably. Miami and Las Vegas makes sense just because it's Miami and Las Vegas. And someone was trying to make this a point of how do you say that F1's thriving when people can't go to the races with these ticket prices? Here's what I'm going to say. We got to stop acting like Formula One has ever been affordable. Because look at these ticket prices. Now, this is in U.S. dollars. The places like Hungary, Bahrain, Canada, or Austria, places of that nature, Brazil, we know their economic issues. Those races are probably not affordable in that currency for those people. But this has been Formula One has always been for rich people. And I think is the point I'm trying to get at. And we shouldn't be surprised at these ticket prices.
And the other thing, Darryl, is we look at Coda, which has an average 3-day ticket price of $667.
That's before your plane ticket.
Yeah, that's just your ticket.
Yeah.
Think about the crowds we've seen there the last 3 years.
They've packed that place. They've absolutely filled it.
So, and realistically, if we're being completely honest, most people can actually afford this. It's just they can't do so comfortably.
Yeah. You are going to be feeling it after you do it because you got to fly down there, which flights are expensive right now. Then you got your hotel, and then you got your spending money because, good Lord, we've talked about this like 3 or 4 times. Formula One merchandise has to be the most inaccessible merchandise from a cost standpoint in motorsports.
As I sit here in front of a $40 flag wearing a $40 hat.
That hat was only $40?
Yeah.
Wow. For Formula One, I'm surprised.
Well, sorry, euros. I should say euros.
Yep.
I have a $200 jacket. I have a $140 sweatshirt. My son has a $40 hat. He has a $25 shirt and short set. I dropped like $600-700 on Max Verstappen store last year.
Yeah.
And the die casts are like $200.
Jesus. And I just got a die cast of my die cast for Daniel Suarez's car came in. It was like $80 that I paid for that. The Mercedes F1 team shirt for this year is $101. You want it in white and long sleeve, it's $139. The shirt I got for Bubba is like $60.
And that is, and realistically, when it comes to NASCAR, if it's over like $50, it's like people are like, this is a ripoff.
Yeah. We just got to understand this sport is built for a certain clientele. And trying to shame Formula One into changing it is just not going to happen. And we just have to face it.
Yeah. Yeah, so like the jacket that I have is marked down to $80.
Mm-hmm.
That's from last year. It's the Puma. And it's marked down from 160 euros. It's marked down to 80.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. Yeah, so a 118, which is the scale, a 1 to 18 of, which is the biggest. It'd be comparable to the 124 scale NASCAR diecast. Yeah. They retail for €169. Because I remember like begging my wife, like, please just let me buy this one. This can be the only one I need to buy. And thankfully Red Bull just puts the new car, the old paint job on their new car. So it works out great. But yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise that it's unaffordable, but you know, the thing is they're filling these stands at these prices.
And they're not going to come down because they're putting butts in seats at these prices.
And realistically, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Darryl, but the people that are going to the races are not the same ones that are talking about the prices.
No. Absolutely not.
And like an average person like me, right? Like I'm not rich by any means, but I only live 6-7 hours away, and I see Canada's only 270 or 297, so that's really not that bad. But I wouldn't come back here and say, oh, I don't think anybody that goes to any of these races goes home and says that was a ripoff or it wasn't worth it. I think they're all going home and saying, I had a hell of a time. I want to go back.
Maybe for the atmosphere, but definitely not for the on-track product.
Correct,
but that's just for the last 5 years. That's just, or not last 5, last 10.
Yeah, but that's absolutely the case. Is that they are making this an event that is worth exorbitant prices, and the people that are actually going to the races aren't saying that they had a bad time. The people on Twitter who live in America and complain about the price of Monaco, those are the people that are complaining.
Yes.
The people who are never going anyway. And they're just saying they're priced out. But the fact is, Monaco is expensive, and you were never going to go anyway, so why even complain about the price?
Yeah.
Now, I do want to go to Canada.
I would love to go to the Canada race, but the on-track, for me, the on-track product has to be better, but we just have to understand, Formula One is catering to a certain clientele. We can either deal with it, or we can watch something else, because they are not going to change these prices, especially when they're making money and they're packing the seats. No, we just have to accept it.
Did you listen to Actions Detrimental with Denny Hamlin this week?
Not yet, but I'm going to tomorrow.
He actually spent a lot of time talking about Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually asked the fans to say, like, what do you like about Formula One that you wish NASCAR would consider, or what do they do that NASCAR doesn't do well? What do they do that you want NASCAR to do? What do they do that you don't like? Like, he genuinely put out to his followers, like, please tell me what the difference is. And it was actually really interesting hearing his take. He goes, he knows what's going on. He is obviously a fan of Formula One to a degree, because he had valid things that we talk about on this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Like at any given week, you're waiting for Max to mess up to see who wins. That's the only way somebody else is winning. And about how they certainly are catering to a specific clientele, and how they are able to somehow make a race weekend an event. It's not a race. You are going to an experience.
Yeah.
And what can NASCAR do to make their races not races, but what can they do to make it an event that you want to go to? Because they know that they have a problem, and we know that they have a problem. They
have a few races that are events. Daytona,
Talladega,
Darlington, our crown jewel races.
But those races
all have steep in history. Which night race?
Bristol.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, those races are steeped in history and have a whole lot of, tradition with them. Outside of that, it's just another race. But the thing is also with Formula One, they don't race every week.
And that's what I think that's what the draw of Formula One is there's a couple things. Like, when they come for most places, they got one race per country.
Yes.
So there's draw number one. If they're coming to your country, most likely it's the only time they're coming to your country. Mm-hmm. Think about if you live in South America, right? Where do you go? You basically got Mexico and Brazil.
Yep.
You're probably not coming to Dakota or any of the other U.S. races, or Canada, right? Because those are closer.
Right.
So you've got that, and you've got the fact that they don't race every week. It's usually 2 weeks between races. They've only got 23 races for the whole year, and they make an event out of it. But NASCAR just oversaturates. Think about how many races they do within a 2-hour drive of Charlotte.
A lot.
Right?
And to your point, these are the next 3 for Formula One. They're going to run Saudi Arabia March 17th through 19th. At the end of this month, they're going to run Australia. And then we have a spring break because China fell through again. They don't race again until April 28th to the 30th in Azerbaijan. So you got 2 weeks between this one and next one. Then you have a month. That is a lot of time to build hype. That's a lot of time to build excitement that you don't get when, okay, we just raced at Phoenix. We run Atlanta next week. We run COTA the week after next. It's an unbroken string of races until June.
Father's Day.
And then from June, basically Father's Day. And then from after Father's Day to November. You can't build a lot of hype like that when it's one after the other after the other.
And this is kind of a hill that I'm going to die on, Darryl, is Formula One, especially for us East Coasters, races for an hour and a half on Sunday morning.
Yep.
You're not doing anything Sunday morning anyway.
Except for just getting up.
You know, they race between, basically there's like one or two races that's like 7 a.m., but most of them are like 9 to 11, somewhere in that range. Usually 10 o'clock is really when it usually is anyway. But it's an hour and a half of commercial-free racing. They have a fantastic broadcast. I don't care what you say about Crofty. He is a better commentator than anybody NASCAR has, just in terms of overall package. I think Mike Joy is a national treasure, but we only got him for half the season. And when it comes to the product that Formula One puts down, they're just better, but it's because they race 23 times. There's 2 weeks in between. They run short races that have higher ticket prices than NASCAR and probably overall a better satisfaction rate. So do the math on that. More expensive, shorter race, higher satisfaction. Those things don't
I wouldn't
mix.
say higher well, I mean, we've seen how people complain about the actual races. I mean, their only saving grace is that they're short. I mean, they had a 3-hour race. Free. Yeah, that too. That's the only thing. Those are the two things going for them. Because I'm telling you, if they had this type of racing product with NASCAR length races and production, nobody would be watching this sport. And that is
only 3 teams worth of fans would be watching.
Yeah.
Unless it was in your country.
Right.
But no, I think NASCAR has an issue. I really think that they do. And I don't think that Formula One puts on better racing, but I think they do a better job of making a boring racing exciting.
Yes.
Like at Bahrain, we saw Max, out of the 57 laps they ran, we saw him on lap 1 when he pit, and then again just as he was coming over the line, and other than that, we didn't even see him. He was just so far off in his own land, and we were watching the other battles. And in NASCAR, we watched the top 3 cars all race
and
long.
That's it.
It doesn't matter that Kyle Busch had a penalty and in stage 1 drove from 32nd to 8th. We didn't even see anything. They just tell us about it at the stage break because we watched William Byron drive in a circle for 60 laps.
Mm-hmm.
NASCAR's problem is that they don't know how to make the race exciting to the broadcast. And I think that is what drives ticket sales down. Because you watch it on TV and you're like, this is boring. Why do I want to pay $100, $200, $300 to go be bored when I could be doing literally anything else for free? I think that's where their image problem comes, is they just don't do a good job of making every other race exciting. So when they're in town, you don't want to go.
And they got a lot. And it starts with the TV production, and then it'll go from there. They've got to show more of the battles in the race. I'm telling you, a lot of these races are not as bad as you think at the racetrack, but on TV, it's pretty bad.
Yes, absolutely. Like when Kevin Harvick was out in the lead by 5 seconds, why are we watching him? Why?
Go find some battles on track.
Yeah, I get it, and their sponsorship structure is not built for that. That's part of the problem, is the sponsors want to be on the car out front because that's who gets all the airtime. But if you spread that around, you're going to get good sponsors all over the place. And the highest paying sponsors are going to stay with the highest teams. right? Because victory lane counts for something.
Mm-hmm.
But my gosh, if there's a battle going on for 2 cars that are 3 laps down, but if it's a good battle, show me. I don't care what place they're in. I want to watch a good battle.
We all do, and they need to show it to us.
And that's the one thing that they won't do. Because NASCAR sponsorship model is built around showing the guy who's in front all race long.
Yep. So, we got going into Jeddah this week. I think we know who's going to win it at this point, although Max does have that stomach bug, so who knows what could happen. But
he's not even flying in until tomorrow.
Yeah, so who knows how that's going to affect him. But there's a couple of teams that need to get on the horse. Mercedes, obviously, but McLaren, they are absolutely out to lunch. They have to show magnitudes better improvement this week. The problem is, I don't think they can.
I don't think so either. I mean, if you look at the drivers' standings right now, Lando is 17th and Piastri is 20th.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually the worst performing team right now. Obviously, they're not the only team with 0 points in the constructors. There's 3 teams with 0 points: AlphaTauri, Haas, and McLaren. But McLaren is in last place out of those. Piastri had that issue. He had to retire on lap 13, I think it was. And then Lando pitted 14 times.
Pretty sure he just pitted again while we were talking.
Yeah. He still hasn't finished the race from what I've been told. They got an issue, and we said it last week, and we talked about it all year last year. Their problem is not going to sort itself until Zach Brown is gone, which probably isn't happening.
Yeah, they are in a situation similar to Ferrari for me, where it is a problem of the structure of the team as a whole, and they've got to fix it because they should not be going down. They have gotten progressively worse since Zach Brown has been there, and he was supposed to be trying to fix it. Yep. So for them to be sitting here with their 2 drivers 17th and 20th, it's an indictment of the current culture in the team. You know, there is and I hate to steal this term from John Taffer on Bar Rescue, but there's a cultural failure at McLaren right now. And John Taffer might need to do a Formula One team rescue at this point, because it's that bad.
Yeah. It's true, though. I mean, Zach Brown is 100% the cog that is failing the wheel. And I really think that Lando will go winless at his time at McLaren. I think Oscar Piastri will go winless at his time at McLaren. And, you know, we were talking about, Darryl, if we just rewind back to 2021, we were talking about how McLaren was third in the constructors.
Yeah, we thought they were
fighting for podiums.
Yeah, we thought they were going to make the big 3 a big 4. I mean, it's a big 1 this year, but Lord have mercy, it's gone completely backwards.
It was a fast fall from grace.
Yes,
because like I said, we were talking about them fighting for podiums. Now we're talking about them fighting for points.
I never thought we'd be talking about them like this, but
I'll say that I thought it was unlikely to borderline never. But my gosh, they are what we thought Red Bull was going to be with the 2022 car. They threw everything into 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But McLaren just completely fell flat on their face. And like I said, I don't think that they will be able to turn it around with Zach Brown at the helm. But I don't know how likely it is that they move on from him. Probably highly unlikely.
He runs that ship, so
Yeah.
I have no idea how they're going to fix that. So, at least United Autosports did moderately well during qualifying at Sebring today, which that's the team that owned by Zach Brown on the endurance side. So, at least that's working out.
Yeah.
But hey, it's going to be hopefully a fun race on ESPN this week. And it is time, of course, for us to pick who's going to win these races with nearest the win. I will go over the points. Currently, I have the lead at 60, and there's starting to be a little bit of daylight between me and everybody else. Larry is second with 100. Taryn has 102. Chris has 108. Michael has 118. And Matt White is tied with him at the bottom of the page at 118 points. And this week we are... Go ahead.
And just for the record, anybody listening, if you wanted to start this week, you would have 159 points because that is the max points payout so far this season. So you're only starting 40 points behind. So you're in it. You're in it probably until you're about 400 points behind. I think you're probably in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's only about a couple more weeks where I would say if you're trying to get in, go ahead and get in. But I would say
you could be fighting for third or fourth or second, or realistically, you can fight for second or third in like the next probably 6 weeks.
Because and could be faster because
we are sucking.
We are known to pick stinkers sometimes, so you could get into, you could get into the championships running pretty quickly. But we've got Formula One at Saudi Arabia, and NASCAR is going to Atlanta. I am taking, to fulfill our Formula One rules, which you got to use everybody, and you can only use the top 3 teams 3 times.
Yeah.
We might have to revisit which 3 teams those are, given how things are going. But I'm thinking
we base that off of 2022 standings.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to do a performance patch. But I'm taking Yuki Tsunoda for this week. And Chris, who are you taking?
I'm going to use my easy out and take the basically guaranteed 1 point that Max Verstappen of Red Bull Racing is going to score me.
Yep.
And Matt White is taking Carlos Sainz Ferrari, Larry taking Charles Leclerc Ferrari, and Taryn with the bold move of the week takes Lewis Hamilton with Mercedes. That's going to be our bold move of the week. It has to be.
Yeah, that is our bold move of the week. And the funny thing is, these guys are getting their. You only get to use these top teams a limited amount of times, and Larry, Matt, and Taryn have all really they're burning through those picks. So
maybe joke's on us though, Darryl. Maybe these other teams like like an Alpine or something. Maybe they're going to throw something at us later. I think a lot of teams are looking at Baku for their first round of upgrades. I think they want to get them in before Miami and test them out. So we'll see. Maybe some of these back markers are going to kind of shake things up, and then you and I are going to be the ones looking funny for not using or for using those lower teams when they were doing bad, when they might actually start turning it around later on.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can go back to those lower teams as much as you want. So
yeah.
So even if they do start getting better,
yeah,
it depends. We'll see how it happens. In Atlanta, it's a plate race. Y'all know who I'm picking out a plate race. It's Bubba Wallace. Chris, who you taking?
I'm going to take a winner from last year, and I'm going to roll with the Hendrick train. I'm taking Kyle Larson. He's actually been kind of not cheated out of 2 wins, but I saw somebody had posted on Twitter that if overtime rules were scrapped, these would be your race winners in order. Mm-hmm. Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Kyle Larson.
So it would have been an all Kyle start to the season.
All Kyle, all Chevy. If overtime rules did not exist as they do.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ride the Kyle train. I'm taking Kyle Larson. Matt White, with our bold move of the week in NASCAR, Matt White picked taking Corey LaJoie, which I don't think is a bad pick, actually.
It's a plate race, so you go with anybody down the order. Austin Dillon, Taryn is going with. Larry is also going with Bubba Wallace.
Oh, and Michael, yeah, I was going to say, he just texted in. So I'll get those. If you want to read them off there, I'll get them typed up.
He's going to take Alonso at Jeddah, and he's also going to take Bubba Wallace at Hotlanta, and he is also excited that Ferrari's on the pole tomorrow.
I figured he would be.
Yeah. We will have Michael back on the show soon.
Yeah. I was actually thinking Fernando for Saudi Arabia, but I put him down for Australia just because I think, and I could be wrong, but I think they were saying that the Aston Martin has some pace on the straightaways. And we all know that Australia is a fast track when it comes to time on the throttle.
Yeah, I might be thinking of changing my pick by the time we get to Australia, but
I don't know. Williams is good on the straightaway too. They're actually the best statistically. Last year they were the fastest. So I think I'm going to be revisiting my pick, which I'm kind of thinking in my head that it's going to be Fernando, but I might be switching over to Williams.
Yep. We will see what happens. But hey, if you want to get your picks in, of course, hashtag nearest the win with your picks for this week. And good luck to all your picks this week. Before we go, I want to shout out H1 Unlimited. We're finally going back to Detroit next year. It was announced this morning that the H1 Unlimited Hydroplane Series will be returning to Detroit in 2024. That'll be next July. And the Seattle Seafair will be hosting this year's Gold Cup, which is basically their version of the Indy 500. But congratulations to H1 finally getting back on the water in Detroit.
Yeah. It's nice to see him back in Detroit. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
It'll be fun to see them take the Rooster Tail turn again. These boats are really fast, really heavy, and it puts on a great show. But hey, if you want to talk to us during the week, DK Jr. 12, Chris at Fiji Sims, and make sure you follow the Extra Mile IESR, our Twitter, and make sure you follow our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and the IE Sports Radio socials as well. If you missed any episode of any IE Sports Radio show, you have the YouTube repository, which has a stack of every episode we've ever done on any show in IE Sports Radio. And of course, check out the website. We've got merch there, chance to join the Patreon, show bios, everything you want to know about IE Sports Radio and all the diehard fans here that make this your direct feed for all that is sports. But we got to get ready to get out of here. For Chris, I'm Darryl. This has been The Extra Mile, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.